There are iconic duos in the world: Bonnie and Clyde, Facebook and privacy concerns, Google and antitrust lawsuits. But for me, the most exciting one is clearly Sega and horror games. Because the first thing should come to people's mind when they think of Sega is Condemned Criminal Origins, and not this abomination. In Condemned, we play as a street crime unit investigator, Ethan Thomas. He's arriving to a murder scene, just to get jump-scared by his colleague.
Thomas, I don't got all day here. Let's get a move on.
It's gonna be a long-ass shift waiting for us. The suspect we are looking for is presumably the matchmaker, a serial killer known for murdering young women and then posing them with male mannequins. As we get to the scene, we have to investigate and look for evidence in the area. The samples will be sent to Rose, the lab technician. She will analyze them and contact us as she receives the results. A close look at the clues reveals that the matchmaker is behind the murder, who is mysteriously missing his index finger. Now I have an idea why his girlfriend dumped him. Before finishing the investigation, our colleagues are distracted by cigarette smoke, and we head in the direction of the smell. The lights get turned off, then we hear some noises upstairs, so we split up to turn on the lights and catch the potential suspect. It wouldn't be so hard if my frames were not dropping like there was no tomorrow. Now that's better. Oh, and some additional info. The city is infested with aggressive drug addicts, who will be our main opponents during the game. They just don't give a fuck and attack us with anything they can get their hands on. It can be a board, a pipe, a locker door, or even a firearm. So we find a fuse box. We turn the power back on, but we get electrocuted, which causes Ethan to go down for a few seconds, and he drops his pistol. And obviously it's the matchmaker who picks it up, but he just simply walks away with it. A total lunatic. We hurry up to catch him, but he beats up Ethan. Then he shoots both officers who come to help us, in the most pathetic way. What a bunch of noobs, really. Then Ethan gets thrown out the window. He passes out and wakes up on a couch at home. Wasn't a bad shift after all, was it? The geezer who helped us to get home is Malcolm Van Horn, an old friend of Ethan's dead, and he hits us with some news. Ethan's gun was found by the police at the crime scene, therefore they are blaming him for the murders. I must say, that's some excellent detective work right there. The first place they are going to look for him is in his apartment, so we'd better get the fuck out. We get a few minutes head start while Malcolm covers for us, and we head for the metro station. The only other person supporting us is the lab tech girl, Rose. Through the game, Thomas has more and more visions about the murders and other interesting things, all of which Malcolm knows about. There is also a recurring character that looks like it's from a Finnish metal band. Soon we discover that the suspect has been following our previous investigations, and the next clue leads us to Bar's department store. Here we find the corpse of the matchmaker, in a familiar setting, but ironically with a female mannequin. How the turntables. From now it's clear that this guy hunts down the serial killers we're investigating, using their own methods, and there is only one suspect left on the list, the torturer. So the main murderer goes by the name Serial Killer X for now, or SKX for short. There is no time to waste because the cops are coming, although I don't really see why we should be afraid of them. They can't even take down a single vagrant alone. Whatever. The epic chase continues inside the dumpster, reaching speeds that were never even imaginable. Then Ethan hides in the most nonsensical place. He sure played the Metal Gear Solid games, that's why he's so confident. So he escapes and has a rendezvous with Rose, in an abandoned library.
You mind taking the lead through this area?
Just a sec. Yeah, sure, let's go. Rose brings an FBI folder showing that Ethan has several abnormalities, mostly related to his bone structure and brain functionality. It's a cool way to explain why he takes hits like a tank. By accessing computers and old files, Rose and Ethan discover that the torturer's real name is Carl Anderson. His old PE teacher recognized him and gave info to the police. Since then the teacher has also disappeared. Next destination is the torturer's alleged hideout, an educational rehabilitation center, the St. Joseph Secondary School. Unfortunately, this sneaky bastard was listening to our convo the whole time, so we must hurry up to find the missing teacher and the torturer, before XKX does it. In the school we meet a lovely cafeteria worker, who has the smile of an angel. Then the clues lead us to the gym, where we find a PE teacher's arm. He was committed to the NBA, to say the least. 5 minutes later we find him in a locker, revealing that Carl Anderson tortured him, but SKX intervened and kidnapped Carl. Rest in peace, Samuel Tibbetts. Your legacy shall live on forever. Next up we find some clues related to pesticides. So Ethan is trying to reach an abandoned apple orchard in a rural town called Briar. Thankfully on our way out we bump into Malcolm, who always happens to know where we are. Then he drives us to the apple orchard. We continue to investigate in a farmhouse, solve some riddles that eventually lead us to the SKX's sex dungeon, until we hear some noises upstairs. Moving upstairs we find the torturer, who committed suicide. So Ethan's 200 IQ idea is to hide the body, put on the torturer's clothes, even smear his face with the dead man's blood. Ethan? Are you okay? Basically he sets up an ambush for SKX, who walks into the trap and tries to get away, but we beat the shit out of him, until Malcolm knocks Ethan out with a shovel. Then Malcolm gets knocked out as well. SKX is actually Malcolm's nephew, Leland Van Horn. Before Ethan could piece the story together, his index finger is gone, but luckily Malcolm wakes up and knocks Leland out. It went full circle, lol. Malcolm tells us that we must destroy the thing that caused all this madness. The thing that was only in the game for 2 seconds, and his name is Hate, apparently. Such a character build-up. At this point Condemn turns into a nightmare. We fight our way through the hordes of vagrants and budget Slipknot members, until we reach the barn, where the final boss fight takes place. After multiple waves of his minions, we can finally beat this budget Hellraiser dude. Whenever he drops, we pull out a metal bracket out of him. Then in the end, his braces as well, revealing his true face. He is Sir Daniel Fortesque from Medieval. Well, he was. As we finished, Malcolm picks up Ethan, but they don't get too far because Leland is in the trunk. This is the final showdown. We can choose to kill Leland or not, but it doesn't really matter, cause he ends up being dead anyway. Fast forward a couple of days, we see Ethan talk to Rose in a diner. She tells us that the cult seems to be behind all what happened and that she's wired. Rose says goodbye. Ethan goes to the bathroom, where he starts to throw up and hallucinate. Then he turns around to show he has the exact same braces like the Hate had. 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this method.